it is a pleasure for me to participate and to introduce as a guest Louise Pelletier. Good morning, Louise.
Good morning, Alessandra.
You are welcome. Nice to see you.
Buonasera.
Buonasera. Louise, you are currently the director of the UQAM Design Center, the design center of the Université du Québec in Montreal. And you have been leading the center since 2018, but you were previously a professor in the Université of Quebec and the director of the graduate program in environmental design and then the dean of the School of Design. Your current research focuses on exhibition practices and especially on how exhibition spaces become centers of formal and spatial experimentation. And I think that they are also places where to investigate the different design practices, for example, and where to reflect on their potential. The topic that we have chosen for today is the new modes of interaction in which we are immersed. On the one hand, we have the digital transformation. On the other, we have the pandemic. And I think that they both have led to this radical change in the way in which we interact with each other, but also with objects, with the environments, and also with art and the cultural production. So you wrote that is an interaction mediated by the screens, all kinds of screens, and we are also mediated at this moment. So maybe we can start this conversation with your reflection on these issues and on how your work addresses the issue of the omnipresence of the screens.
Thank you, Alessandra, and thank you to the whole team of POLIMI for this opportunity to address these issues, very important issues, certainly in the situation in which we've been living for the past 15 months. Clearly, when I was invited to join you in conversation, it seems to me a very crucial issue to address because I'm sure that on your side of the Atlantic in Italy, but also all over the world, we've been impacted by a situation that we never had to face before, and the distance has forced us to engage in different modes, certainly engage through these multiple screens. And unfortunately, I think we're having a little technical problem with screen sharing. I had prepared a whole presentation to show you some example, and one example in particular of one of the projects we've worked on during this past year, and a project that really illustrates this situation with the challenges posed by the current situation and how to engage this distance created by screens. So maybe just to give you a little bit of context, I am indeed the director of the Design Center, which is an exhibition place here in Montreal. We have about 400 square meters, and it's part of a university context. So the Design Center was created by the professor from the School of Design already 40 years ago. So over 4 decades, we've produced like 350 exhibition on-site and traveling exhibition. And those range through all the different design disciplines, from graphic design to fashion, product design to urban design, architecture. So really, del cucchiaio alla città, as some of your some of your compatriots.
Yeah, we know very well this claim.
Yes, yes, of course, and in fact, we're very much in that frame of mind, you know, looking at design issue, but globally, asking the question more generally, rather than purely on disciplinary grounds. So, so we've produced a lot of exhibitions over the year, and in fact. 2 years ago, we started working on a project that was very interesting and intellectually and challenging. Some colleagues suggested presenting the photographic work of the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard, whom some of you may know, a philosopher who's written extensively on the status of the screen and its challenges as well. And in fact, 25 years ago, he wrote a seminal text called Écran total, which translates into English as total screen. A piece of work in which he developed his incisive reflection on the role, the use, and even the viral dimension that some of the screen can take. So without knowing how topical this issue would become, you know, in 2021, we started working on this exhibition that addressed precisely this issue of the omnipresence of screen. So the exhibition became Total Screen, which is its title, and it features some photographic work by Jean Baudrillard, but also this work is put in conversation with the work of 7 emerging and established artists, and I have some images fixed and some video clip as well that I guess you still cannot see. Alessandra.
Unfortunately, no. But I suggest all to search on the website of the UCAN Center, because there are other different types of interaction with the exhibition. So maybe.
Yeah, and if I share my anyway, let's forget about screen for a moment, and that's part of the issue about the exhibition. I guess that's also one of the challenges we face, because like you in Italy and all over the world, when lockdown was imposed in 2020, we had to really take a step back and see, how do we deal with this situation? You know, how do we deal with exhibition design? How do we produce an exhibition when we have this beautiful space where people come and we have great openings where wine is flowing and it's a meeting place? What do we do when suddenly we're forced to stay home and interact through screens? So that became the point of departure for rethinking this exhibition on Baudrillard and the work of these 7 artists. So in fact, we had to close down in March 2020, and it upended everything we were doing. But still, in the beginning of 2021, I decided to give a challenge to my team at the Design Center, but also the team of curators. And here I have to thank them from the bottom of my heart for raising up to the challenge. So I work with Katharina Nemeyer, Magali Hull, Amandine Alessandra, Carole Lévesque, with Marine Baudrillard, who's the widow of Jean Baudrillard, and they work as the curatorial team. And also Victor Bernaudon, who's the scenographer at the Design Center, who is assisted by Vincent Thibault-Vézina and Michel Hébert. So I gave them as a challenge, what happens if we start from the hypothesis that we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. So why don't we start from the hypothesis that that the public won't have access to the exhibition room? And that, as you can imagine, is quite a design challenge, because
Yes, of course.
for the past 40 years, we've produced a physical exhibition. So we started from there. And once
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Louise. Can I ask you, you told to us that you start to think to another way to present this exhibition in later when the closure was not done, but during the closure, do you plan, do you have other activities at the design center, or you completely stop the work?
No, in fact, well, you see, the moment we were sent home, and it happened from one day to the next, it was really surprising, I think, for everyone. I just couldn't lock the door and say, I'll see you whenever we reopen. I guess it's a work ethics. I had to find a way to make the best of the situation. So we started meeting like regularly, twice a week with all my team, and brainstorm about how do we reinvent ourselves? What do we do as a gallery, but also as a place of dissemination of culture, and how do we address some of the current issues? So we did a number of things during all this time. We started assessing some of this, what were our strengths, and what material we had to work with. You see, and we looked around what was being done by other museums, and I think some of the museum really found ways to engage the public in a very novel way, launching some kind of contest. Some of you may have seen it, like in the Getty Center in California. They launched a challenge they asked the public to reinterpret some famous work of art from their collection using everyday objects. You know, many of them were done with toilet papers, rolls, and
everything they have in their home.
Exactly, everything they could find. So, you had an Archimboldo done with these everyday objects, and so it was kind of fun in the beginning, and a way of engaging the public differently and at a different level. So many initiatives were developed in this way to try to engage the new situation. And in our case, we're a gallery, we're not a museum, so we don't have a collection. We don't have a collection of objects, but we have a very extensive collection of photographs of our exhibition from the very beginning. You know, we have 40 years of beautifully documented exhibition, and if it's possible to give the web address of the design center, you can consult it afterwards. But so we started digging into those photographic archives and proposed. We revisited some of these exhibitions. We created a series of thematic guided tour through former exhibitions. So we did some of that in the first few months. And then we also explored different ways of documenting the exhibition. For example, when we had to close down, one of the exhibition was there already mounted, ready to receive the public. So we experimented with 3D scanning and VR devices and all that. Some approaches were more successful than others, but still, maybe to go back briefly to this last exhibition that opened last month. We decided to address head-on this doom scenario of not having access to the exhibition room, and basically what we did is that we asked two fundamental questions. What if instead of trying to bring a maximum number of visitors inside of the exhibition room, which was restricted, only people working in the design center had access to it. What if instead of trying to make an exhibition to be visited, we used the exhibition center as some kind of black box that might project outwards, and that's what we did. That's what we did in the exhibition. We basically decided to use some of the windows as a projection space. So part of the exhibition was planned from the beginning to be seen from the outside. So the room became a vitrine onto the city, where the public could stay outdoors, and visit and see some of the installation. And I had these little clips that I wanted to show you of those art pieces. But basically, in the end, we were allowed to open. So we played on this Baudrillardian dilemma between the real and the simulation. And that became a very strong point of the exhibition, where the pieces are installed inside of the exhibition room, but then we documented them with these very slow motion videos to create a view of the art piece that is almost more real than the piece itself, this simulation. And those pieces are presented on the outside. So we really used the dilemma, the challenge that we were facing, as a strength and as a motivation and as a drive, rather than simply close everything and say, we'll see you when we can reopen. So it's a roundabout answer to your question, Alessandra. I think as designer, we cannot just say the situation is different, or I cannot do the work I was hired to do, and therefore I sit back and I wait until the pandemic is over. I think we have to seize the challenge that are thrown at us and see how we can. Sometimes it's a question of looking at a problem differently, and see how we can use it as a lift to go further than simply as in a defeatist manner and say.
Yes, of course. I find the way that to solve this problem, I cannot say it was very, very interesting, and is in a designerly way you solve this problem. Thank you for sharing this exciting experience, and also to open to other many issues. You I would like to refer to something that you said earlier, the fact that you experiment with some technologies, for example, VR, to try to recreate the space or to record the space of an exhibition that was setting in that moment at the center. And in your opinion, how can advanced technologies, for example, AR, VR, or mixed reality, have an impact in the exhibit field? And how can we as individuals, but also as designer, guide this transition from an interaction through screen towards an interaction into the screen?
It's a very good question, and it's a question that opens up on different possibilities. What I would say more generally is that these technological approaches or devices can add very fascinating ways of entering some projects when they work. And as experience shows, technology does not always work. And it's a problem if we rely entirely on these technologies. They tend to demand very extensive technological installation or apparatus, and we've experimented a little bit with the VR Oculus to offer different ways of experiencing an exhibition, and in fact, I must say, when we did these experiments, was really in a documentary with a documentary intent, to find a way to leave a trace, or to allow people who could not see the exhibition because it had to be closed after a few weeks, give them another chance to see it. Mm-hmm. The problem with this technology is that it's still changing very fast.
Yes.
And it may reach a point where more people have access to these Oculus, for example. We have this experience, we had the experience of trying to use Oculus we bought 2 years ago, and you can no longer update them. So you invest in the equipment, and then it becomes obsolete. So there's this situation where it's the intent was to give greater accessibility, but then the equipments were not readily available, and our intention was we acquire a number of them, and we still have them, and we're still working on it. But the idea is to be able to lend this equipment to potential virtual visitors. But again, we have to develop this technology so that it's maybe easier to access or easier to share. So I guess that's one of the limitation of that form of technology right now. Of course, as a way of staging some project, there are endless possibilities, and certainly in Montreal we have many companies that have fine-tune these ways of working with these virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. So it's a field of experimentation again today. Yeah,
I think that's when we So think about technology. We need obviously to think about the technical limitation that sometimes have technology because it changes very fast and so on. But maybe as designer, I think that we need to think to it as a tool to enhance some contents, and so focus on the meaning and on the contents that we want to augment in some way, and not to the tool that we use to it. So before create some narratives, some other ways to create interaction between the cultural content in this case and the audience, and then user choose some technologies according to our scope, our goal.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I find that it's better to use existing technology and try to either subvert it or expand its field of application. For example, we've worked with this VR technology, and we're still experimenting with it. But we also use the very simple application of Google Street View, for example, to document some of the exhibition. And it's very easy to use because everybody knows how to use that, and you can travel to the exhibition using this tool that was first developed to explore the city. But what happens when you turn it around and let it enter, the realm of an exhibition room? So sometimes using some of these technology and exploring the limit or giving it a different function can be an interesting.
I'm sorry. I have the last curiosity. At the beginning, you said that the center is part of the university. Do you think that this fact has an impact on how you manage the cultural content related to design and architecture, and the way to think about the role of the exhibition?
I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
and to me, it's essential. I wouldn't run it the same way if we were completely independent. And to me, it's very important that some of the topic that we choose for exhibition are directly linked to the research interests of some of my colleagues in the School of Design, but also it's related to some of the teaching programs that we have. So we have some programs in graphic design, in design of the environment, event design, transportation, and modern architecture. So I would say that, and we also have a School of Fashion Design. So all the exhibition will cater to some of the programs, some of the interests, and it really creates a community around some of the points of interest to all the colleagues and students. Of course, we also have this intention to open more broadly to a general public, but this pedagogical dimension is fundamental for me in the very mandate of the Design Center to create this place to think, reflect about design in a way that is relevant and engages the discourse of my colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise. We have, I think, 1 minute left, and so to conclude the conversation, is there a message that you want to share with the future designers, with the young designers?
Well, based on my experience at the Design Center, but also with the failed technology in the current presentation, yeah. I would say you have to remain open to, you have to be able to face the situation, the problem at hand, and try to see how you can really turn it around and turn the potential problem into a potential for action and for changing the way we do things or the way we look at the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Louise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.